Hi, I'm Wayne and this is Bassador Woodworking. This is a US General 30-inch service cart from Harbor Freight, and today I plan to turn this into my mobile filming station for this channel. In a previous video, I highlighted that I bought this cart with the express intent of turning it into my camera station. So today I'm going to build it out so that I can accomplish any of the shots that I need anywhere in the shop that I need it. I already used this to store all of my camera gear, so any adapters, lenses, things like that that I use in the shop, I have them in this drawer and I have all the tripods underneath. So this is going to basically just be building out a large base on the top here where I can store the camera gear that I'm using at the time, mount the audio recorder that I use when I'm filming, and also just build it out so that I can accomplish the variety of shots that I need in any given video. I don't have an exact idea of how I want to do this, but I'm going to just try to make it so that it has as much utility as possible, as easily as possible. I don't want to overcomplicate this thing because I'll never use it if it's fundamentally a pain in the ass to set this thing up. I began by ripping some strips of scrap 3/4 inch MDF I had left over from another project. I'll use this to create a simple frame to mount the equipment to. That gives me my frame. Once I was happy with the fit of the frame, I could apply some glue and use some 7/16 wide crown staples to hold it all together. I then cut the two top pieces to length at the radial arm saw before taking it over to the drill press to bore all of the mounting holes for the monopod that will hold my camera. Okay, so the holes give me multiple places where I can mount this monopod, and that will be pretty much where I normally mount my camera to shoot. But now I have all of these tripods that I do use for like light setups and stuff like that. And I'm thinking that if I put a cleat here, I can make so that they all just kind of mount here, and that will leave the bottom open for me to put my bag and stuff like that. And it will be just kind of grab and go. So if I just make a little plywood cleat that these will all slot into, that should work. The tripod rack is really simple, and it's just held together with wood glue and 1-inch brad nails. Now I have to measure what the diameter of this pole is so that I know what size notch to drill in the plywood. It's 0.791, so 13/16 should be the closest drill bit I have that also will give it a little bit of freedom so that it's not jammed into the slot. I used some more wood glue and more brad nails to assemble the rack. I then cut some triangles using the radial arm saw to provide the rack with some extra support. All of the tripods fit nicely in the rack. I did end up adding a length of old bandsaw tire to hold the tripods in place though. I was worried that they would fall out when I was rolling this thing around the shop. I then whipped up a quick stand for my audio recorder. I 3D printed a holder and then simply fastened it to the stand with some wood screws. I then had to figure out a way to mount the large tripod to the cart. The best idea I could come up with was to mount it to one of the cart handles. I'm not in love with this idea, but it's all I have right now, so I'll give it a shot. I've been using the camera cart for about a week now while working on a different project. I've been fully trying to use this as the main way of filming everything, and I've come across a few inefficiencies in how this whole thing's designed. First being the tripods mounted on the outside of the cart make it way harder to maneuver around, so those are coming off. Not super upset about that. It wasn't a whole lot of work to mount these, and I can still use the mounts elsewhere, just wherever I store the tripods, but having them on the outside of the cart makes this thing way harder to move around the shop, so those are going away. I also need to mount some more arms like these so that I have more flexibility in being able to move the camera over different tools to get different shots and things like that. Sound is the other thing I'm going to try to address, and then also setting up shots. The camera I use to film all my videos is a Sony ZV-1, and while it's a vlogging camera, it does allow you to turn the view finder screen around so that you can see what you're shooting. I'm typically shooting from 6 to 8 feet away from myself when I'm trying to set up shots, so I can barely see what is in the viewfinder, so I'm going to set up an external viewfinder on the cart just using a spare computer monitor that I have, so that I have at least shot composition can be seen from further away. Okay, that's nice and secure. It's not a heavy monitor going on there, so that's not going to cause any issues. Okay, this now has power. For the next part, I'm going to swap over to a different camera so that you can see this whole thing being set up. So colors and stuff might change unless I fix that in post. Typically when I am recording video, I'm using the Sony ZV-1 and I have my lavalier microphone, which is a Sennheiser EW100G3, just plugged in through the Zoom PodTrack P4 audio recorder. And then I just capture a mix of all of the different mics I have plugged in directly into the camera. That way when I'm using Adobe Premiere Pro to edit my videos, I can just synchronize the tracks. They all have the same audio and I just pick whichever one has the best sound. I'm adding an additional microphone just to pick up ambient noise in the shop. That way hopefully the synchronization is a little bit easier. Sometimes I have to manually sync it because either a machine running throws things off or something, so I'm thinking if I capture just static audio in the room at all times, my syncing will be easier. At least that's my theory. So this is what the little monopod that I'll be using most of the time to set up this camera. I have it so that I can move it into any of these different holes depending on where the cart is in the room. I also have a small camera arm that if I need to extend over a tool, I slip it into this brass hole here and I can then extend this over. This is a pretty sturdy arm. As long as nothing hits it, it won't bounce and stuff like that. So that's the plan. What I need to do now is wire this whole thing up and see how it all works and get the external viewfinder working. Which is kind of the entire point of this whole thing. So let's get that going. I also sometimes use a just little GoPro Hero 7 Silver. It's like the lowest of the low GoPro, and it's just good because I mount it to a magnetic base, and if anything ever happens to this, I wouldn't be heartbroken. It has like weird lens distortion and stuff, so I don't like using it as my primary shot for anything. But every once in a while it comes in handy. It's good for getting into really tight places and catching angles that I wouldn't otherwise get. So all in all, it's kind of worth it. So now I'm going to wire up all of the HDMI out and all of that and see what we can get. So I'm just using an HDMI or DVI to HDMI cable. It will be a full digital signal, but it won't be by any means HD. But I don't need it to be HD for what I'm doing. I just want this for essentially lining up shots. So you should see the screen light up just right about now. Yep, cool. So that's what the camera is seeing. And that appears to be working pretty well. So you can see that I am recording just on my iPhone right now. And yeah, that's more than adequate to at least frame my shots. I kind of like it. I need to work on the white balance and stuff like that, but this is just to line up shots and watch myself in the camera to make sure that I'm not looking away or not looking into the lens, things like that, to try to improve the quality of the video overall. Cool. I think that's going to do it for the camera rig for the time being. I have it in a good place for testing now. One thing that I need to do is continue working on it as I use it. This is kind of a living project, and I won't know how effective it is until I've actually used it, found some shortcomings of it, see where it excels, see what changes I need to make to it essentially. This whole thing might become too cumbersome to use and I might go back to the way I did it before. But this is kind of like a living project. I'll provide updates down the line on how things are going with it. One thing I can immediately see as a potential issue is I keep wanting to look at the reference monitor and then it makes it look like I'm looking down at nothing. So I'm actually having to be cognizant to look at the lens. So that's just one thing I'm gonna have to get used to. But thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to keep up to date new projects as they are released. And until next time, thank you.